right, guys. Thanks for coming back. I'm pretty excited today. I've got 3 of my really good friends joining me today. It just so happens that all 3 are brothers, and they all actually worked at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. They've got some great stories, and I can't wait till we get into it. And I will introduce each one individually. So this is Robert Boyle.
Robo.
And then we have Robo.
Robo.
And then we have Jimmy Boyle, James, and then we have Kevin Boyle, the baby, all the way at the back end there.
KGB. Who's he? That was KGB.
KGB.
So as we're going to get going into this, then I got one question as to where I just really wanted to get this thing started is, like, how did the 3 of you guys, and actually all of your entire family basically worked at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, going back to the 60s, 70s?
60s.
60s. Jim was at the Board of Trade, right?
No, I was at the Merc. I got...
with Bill Barnes, that's right.
It was Barnes Brokerage, our father, who was down there for years and years. I think he started around 55 or... No, 50. 51, 52.
After World War II.
Yeah. So our grandfather worked as the janitor. The
Custodial engineer.
Yes, custodial. Very good. Custodial engineer.
I don't know if they were called custodial engineers back in the 50s or 60s, where it was like the fucking janitor was working.
He was the head janitor back in the day. Now he would have been the custodial engineer.
Okay.
So Grandpa,
It had him being Grandpa Boyle working down there had some perks.
yeah.
Instead of his basement had mahogany doors.
Really?
For the walls.
Holy shit.
So what they were doing?
Because of the offices,
The offices
they'd take
were
them
all
apart.
mahogany wood all around. They're beautiful offices.
So we wound up being down there because of a janitor. He was a good man.
How old were you guys when you guys
hardworking Irish immigrant.
Jim, when did you start with Bill Barnes? Can you remember?
Well, yeah, I just turned 18. Yeah.
So Robo and this would have been down there many years before Jimmy.
I think I was there before you were, Jim, because you were going to
DeVry
Institute.
No. Wait,
was DeVry open back then?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. My mother thought that was where Jim needed to go.
And for all that I know, my wife's father was a professor there.
Oh my God.
He may even have been one of Jim's teachers.
Well-
when he went, he wasn't going too
So
often.
what happened was I started back in the summer of '69.
Summer of 60. That's
See,
what
I beat him. I think I beat him.
And what happened is my dad, since they got me into school at the Rye, that was the year, the selective service, I had to sign up with that. I got classified as 1H. And then in the fall, in August, I was supposed to start in the Fry. So my dad got me down there. But I think Bobby started in '69 too.
Your other brother.
Yeah.
Me.
You.
Robo.
Oh, you.
68.
Okay.
I think I started
You
68.
say Bobby. I don't know who Bobby is. I'm just like,
I know, but that's what I used to be called.
It's just, it's just Bobby.
Come on.
So he got started before I did, but then when I started school, he got me a job with Bill Muno, who was in charge of Barnes Brokerage on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange trading floor. So I worked there during the daytime as a runner, and then at night, in the afternoon, I'd take the L system and truck over to Belmont to go to DeVry.
How many days?
okay.
So I probably did that for maybe about a month.
It wasn't like
And
he's there enough.
There was another thing that really intrigued me a lot. So I liked shooting pool back in the day. And I worked in the pool hall too. So
Jimmy was
Which
a
one?
hustler.
Don't tell me the one that was on Milwaukee Avenue.
No,
South Side.
South
Okay.
Side, back
South
in
Side.
Kellyman
Cal Park.
Kellyman Park is where
Okay.
we came from.
Statute of limitations. How much money did you make?
I started out at 50 cents an hour.
No.
No.
No, we don't care about that. We're
That's all I
talking
could
about
do. That's all I
you and
could
Eddie
Yeah,
Coyle were
RSA
going
coming
from
after you now.
town to
It's
town.
over with.
I really can't say
He had a
about
backer.
any of
Honest
that.
to
We
God,
had-
he'd play all. Jimmy
You were a
would play.
pool shark.
Jimmy was
No.
a bull shark. Oh
we-
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
we had-
Like legit pool shark.
Oh,
This other kid, Eddie Coyle, who is a good friend of mine, God bless
Of
him.
ours.
together.
All of us.
You know what? Them on each other's shoulders, they weren't even 6 feet. But they stood on their wallet after leaving the pool hall.
Tallest people
They were as
alive.
tall as the NBA net.
We had a friend, a guy who was a few years older than us, because
believe
we
we're
were so
talking
young.
about
He was
this.
able to get us into bars and stuff like that. So we go into these bars and we'd hustle for
But
money.
it's not like they really checked IDs back then anyway. So I mean, what was the big
Well,
deal? I mean,
just
what?
to get into the bar, we were quite young. We were probably 15.
15, 16
15 or
years
16,
old when he
something like
first
that.
started.
Like
I
the
was-
little fucking rascals over here.
I was a year older than Eddie, but Eddie could shoot so
Eddie was
much.
my
He
age,
was
that's right.
unbelievable. He was. We used to call him Fast Eddie,
Fast
and
Eddie.
he could shoot like Fast
It's not
Eddie.
Fast Eddie Verdoliak, is it?
No. Eddie Coyle.
He kind of slowed down a little bit
Coyle
there.
and Boyle. How's that?
Oh my god.
But Eddie, so anyway, so I kind of ruined my DeVry career by,
Would you
because
even
of
call it a
pool.
career after a month?
After a month. I think about that.
Would you even
Gus.
call it school
1
after a
month.
month?
So here's the deal. My dad had to pay for the whole semester. Okay, so they didn't say anything to my parents until the next semester was due. And oh, by the way, your son flunked the first semester. So he's got to do a repeat. So that was it. In the meantime, I started figuring out what was going on down at the Merc. I started answering phones. I worked for a company that had egg traders that had the inside. And they more or less made the market go their way.
So back when we're talking about like the 60s and then
69,
early 70s. So, but
69.
that's when the Merc was all pretty much agriculture. It wasn't futures like it is
was
now.
all
It was not even futures yet because
was-
that didn't start till the 80s
No,
or
we
something
were
like
we
that,
were
right?
futures. We were futures. We weren't equity indexes or anything like that.
No, nothing.
Back then, we were all,
was all
livestock, eggs and livestock.
Eggs were king back then.
Really?
Eggs. The onions too. I should.
Eggs,
recall.
onions,
Really?
Then hogs.
hogs, bellies, and cattle.
And bellies became very big back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then cattle just kind of kept on building and building. And then a guy by the name of Leo Malamed, and I believe Bob O'Brien was there at the time, and the rest of the trustees on the board decided it was Leo's baby to open up the IOM.
Yeah. International
MM.
monetary.
And
The monetary part of it. Okay.
Rather, IMM.
IMF.
Yes.
I mean, 'cause for me, I go back to like the whole Trading Places movie. That's the only reason why I kind of even
about
the pork bellies, the
Think
bellies.
about-
Yeah,
think about
and that's what we were
the
talking
pork
about.
bellies.
Yeah,
Turn
and what was
on
that?
the
Early
machines.
80s or something. Yeah.
And there were some quite interesting things taking place down there. There was a lot of growth going on. There still is growth to this day. And the people that were down there were interesting. There was we just started with the computers and stuff like that. Actually, I ended up to be a key puncher. I could. I actually became
did it all.
a bookkeeper. I was a bookkeeper.
So Gus, back in the days, not to interrupt Jimmy.
Please
but
interrupt.
Back in the days, they had key punch machines in their 80 punch holes, whatever. And so after trades were made, everything was written on a piece of paper or a little trading card that was about big. And so, to make everything match at night, you would have to have somebody key punch. All right. And then, so Jim would key punch for his house, for Barnes. And then the rest of the exchange would key punch for their customers.
Whoever they were- yeah.
whoever
For
they were.
every trade, every transaction.
Every
this,
transaction.
this is before computers, before TVs.
Back when
Yeah,
Jimmy and I were
and
there.
this is the whole thing. As I was thinking about it today, and I was reading up because I wasn't really familiar, to be honest. And knowing you and you guys for so many years, I never really looked into like what is other than
Well, it's these
what I've seen on TV and
goofballs.
whatever. Yeah, but how is it that so? Was it as volatile as the stock market like it is now, where in the morning it could go up $3, buy, or whatever, and then we're selling, and then we're buying. Was that anything close to back when you guys were doing, or is it like everybody buys in the morning because it's a good price, and then it just
No.
goes for the day, and then that's why you didn't have to
There were-
constantly change and purchase and buy? Because
So the big thing is the computers were, since they were just learning about the systems, they would become overwhelmed with paper when it got busy, when they had huge volume in
Yeah.
the market. There were some good swings.
Yeah.
The computer would get overloaded, and it would take. We wouldn't be able to do out trades, so they called it out trades. We'd have to match trades.
They'd have to
up.
match the trades. Computer
late
would
night.
match them, but there'd be trades.
Right,
that
and I
they
guess that's
couldn't
where
match.
my question, like, what I mean, was something lost? Like, if I wanted to sell at, I'm just throwing a number, let's say $10,
Right.
But then it went down to 6 or 5, and then I wanted to be gone at 10.
So how it was, there was honor in the system. If you made a trade with me,
Honor at trading.
there was. Honest to God.
Huge.
Honor.
Really? Okay.
It was
It
all.
was the greatest thing in the world.
It
This is
really,
what this
really
place was about.
It was made of
If your integrity
integrity.
wasn't there,
Jim's so right.
you're done. You're done. You must
Really?
leave.
It was
Because
incredible.
If it got out that you didn't back out of trades or you lied
And they
about,
called that renege. Back.
Yeah.
If you renege
It
on
never-
a trade,
you lose your respect.
no
No.
one would trade with you anymore.
So,
It
so anyway,
Well, that's wild, though.
it was- it was
never
like
knew
it-
that. That's just something.
It
that-
was like handshakes thousands of times a day.
But you're talking
And
about
And
a
it
ton
was-
of money
You're talking
that's going through.
tons of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it was unbelievable. It really
So-
was.
so
And
it
it
was
still works.
It was
The whole
probably
system
less than
works
1% that someone would renege on a trade.
So the big thing was
today. But it would happen. It'd be big money. Right, Cap?
First of all,
Yeah.
when a broker endorses his order, or if a trader is doing his trading cards,
Yeah.
the key puncher has a hard time reading these things because these guys are in a
Jimmy
hurry. So they would,
Jimmy
and
Boyle.
I know because I actually had to do the key punching and try to read some of this stuff. Bill Muno, my boss, I couldn't read his chicken scratch to save my life. But I did, I was able to get through it and learn his writing
Right.
and what he did. The one thing about Bill, he had a photostatic memory. So if something were to happen, if he was trading, and he was into pork bellies. And so when the pork bellies were just every day up and down.
They
up
were
and down.
like what goes on
Pork
today.
bellies is
Okay.
All right.
up and
They're
down,
like
all
the
over.
S&P market today. The S&P market is one of the largest
Oh, it's one of the-
markets in
yes.
the world. And so the insanity because of Donald Trump, we didn't have that back in the days of the pork bellies, but we had the volatility of the pork bellies
And we did
of,
not.
of the S&P.
We didn't have the quickness of the processing systems, computers nowadays.
Yeah.
So this paper trail with the out trades and stuff, and the key punchers punching something wrong because they couldn't maybe read the price
Yeah.
or the quantity, whatever it may be, and then they punch. One stands for buy, two stands for sell, and so you'd have buy versus
See, that's what
buy,
I'm saying.
sell.
What happens if something's screwed up? That's where,
Well,
yeah.
sometimes somebody else, the key puncher will
There
punch
was.
too, and so that's what would cause out trades. And so usually around 3:00 in the
Yep.
afternoons, because this was the beginning of
So true.
computers back
This
then.
is so, yes.
The mark would send out trades. Okay,
the first run.
first run, Kevin.
So trading would stop in the cattle, I think, was it 1:45 back in the day?
Yep, 12:45. 9 to 12:45. Pretty
Yeah.
good hours.
That's it.
Yeah,
And then it's done.
but
and the boils all.
so
We took advantage of those hours.
so then it had to be processed by the key punch cards. Those had to be turned in, I think, by 2:00.
2:00.
2:00.
Yeah,
So, and you should see these stack of IBM cards.
Well, I remember you telling us at Easter that it was like,
They're huge.
Yeah.
And his company, the company that he worked for, they carried out like shoe boxes.
Oh,
these
yeah.
things,
We were
loot boxes.
Because
And it was
our-
unbelievable.
Our biggest commodity that these guys would trade, they're all cattle traders. 90% of these guys were cattle traders. So I'm telling you, and we had like
Oh,
2 or
gosh.
3 key punchers. I mean, because that's how big we were. We were the company I worked for, Rufinock, Browningen, and Hertz, short abbreviated name, which it always was RB&H. And these guys were the biggest. They really were. But when I first started in the business, it wasn't RB&H. There was a firm called Heinold Rufenack.
Oh my God.
All right. So I think that was 1968 where I beat my brother
I was
down
just
the
born.
floor. I was just born. And then when I got there in 69, I went back. So my dad got me a job. All right. So I went to work for Rufenack, Bromingen, Hertz, Heinold Rufenack, excuse me. And then I think in 69 it became Heinold Rufenack, and I worked for Heinold Rufenack. And then I think in 70, I could be wrong. I'm telling you, I'm an old man, and my brain has deteriorated. The tequila hasn't changed anything. but I ended up for a year working at Heinold, and then the guys at RB&H, Rufenack, Bromingen, and Hertz, said, "Oh, why don't you come, to work with us?" And that's how I ended up there. And then I did the bullshit. I never was a key puncher like my brother Jim.
Lucky you.
I was an out trade clerk.
He was,
What did you end up doing
he
then?
was considered one of the best out trade clerks, matching thousands of trades together. So that's what wrote.
So what did you end up doing while you were there?
I was a
Because you're the baby, so you followed
I
behind
was
you.
in
These two.
college.
Oh,
No.
you went the college route.
I
You went to
still going to
tried to go to
I
Smart.
was still in high school pole vaulting.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's right. You're
You know
in high
what?
school.
Practicing running the pole into the wall in our backyard.
I was on my way, visions of going to the Olympics, and then my younger brothers were vaulting higher than me before I graduated high school. So I went to college and I had some fun.
Yeah.
Kevin went to
wrong with that.
Illinois Benedictine.
Hey,
Billy,
Kevin and-
Billy went to Illinois.
Kevin and Billy went to college together.
But growing
Billy a
up
year
as
older.
kids, we didn't know much about the exchange.
No. Our mother,
No.
our mother
Our-
shielded us.
She
from
didn't
that
want
place.
us to be
Wait,
a
your
part.
dad also worked at the Merc, right? Or where did your dad?
Yeah, but Grandpa brought my dad in.
Okay.
So our grandfather was.
He hooked him up with
John V. McCarthy.
John V.
No,
McCarthy,
he
J.V.
was
McCarthy.
with Miles Friedman. before
Miles
that.
Freeman
Oh,
was the
that's
first
right.
guy. Yeah.
Oh, what
Look,
Miles.
Kevin with the memory.
So our father,
Miles got
our father went a completely different route than us. He was a salary broker.
Yep.
Salary broker. He handled cattle guys, or I don't know what he did before he was with
Eggs.
the cattle.
He was
an
he
egg
was
maker.
They were big.
he was the go-to guy. He was
So-
the broker when there was somebody was going to be putting in a big order or something like that.
Yeah.
They go to my dad, and then they go to another guy, and they would like come into the pits near the close and do their thing.
Try to get it together.
Try to muscle the market one way or another, or whatever the order said they would do. So, and you
So
know,
it could be manipulated back
he would
then?
go, no,
Or not-
no.
Or
Yes, they could.
No, they were. Gus, they were.
Jimmy's like, no.
They were protecting their equities. Okay. So anyhow,
So these guys were legit hedgers.
Jimmy's like, I can say that.
No, our father had a legitimate egg hedge.
Yeah, they
I
were.
mean, so he was trying to. My dad was trying to.
I think
perfect-
they were short bought eggs at the time, and that's what.
so you're going.
He was trying to protect their hedge, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was basically it, and so they would come in, and during the day too, and usually on openings and closes, that's when it really gets absolutely absurd.
So-
Would you
So
explain
these
to
guys
us
pro-
what opening and
Wait,
closes?
So
are?
the openings are all the brokers who are holding paper, filling paper. Let's say Kevin and Bobby and myself. We all did it. Our father did it. But he would usually stand in the cattle pit in the first option, which is the lead month per se.
Okay.
So
where is the most? It's the most
it's
traded
the busiest.
option.
So
Yeah, it's the
we're
busiest.
talking, companies like E.F. Hutton, Revco, Merrill Lynch. All these old
Merrill Lynch, yeah.
old companies that have been
A.G.
around.
Edwards.
Yes. And
wow.
there used to
Okay.
be maybe a handful, maybe 10, 15 brokers that would just stand there and fill paper. So everybody would have something else. And it was like, one guy would say, Bobby would say, like, we're going to be lower. And then the guy next to him says, no, we're going to be higher because he's probably got 200-300 to buy. He's probably got 200 to sell. So here we go. Who's going to start out first?
That's what it
you know,
was.
Kevin
Really?
ended up to be one of the biggest brokers in the front option.
Absolutely.
So, and he's not talking right now.
He's not saying that. No, now he's quiet. Now.
But I was the
But it was-
broker that was not trying to screw my brother, but I had customers that were bigger than anything that
was-
Kevin saw.
It was a
It was
big
wild.
poker
It
game.
was wild.
And it was like-
It was a big poker game.
Bluffs.
You know, you had
It was like, just watch his eyes. Let him take it. Then get him. You know?
No, it really was. It was.
It-
you didn't want to
really was.
divulge anything.
And
And you couldn't
Like our-
divulge. Honest to God. Like 30, right, Kev? 30 seconds before.
Like our
Tell 'em.
fathers, or our father, we got in through the customer. We tried filling paper for our customers, trying to give them that edge. We wanted to give them the edge that the so-called local or member had down on the trading floor. So you'd hide what you were doing. You wouldn't let them know.
well, you couldn't say
But
That
Gus,
you knew a little bit of info.
you couldn't
Hey,
say
Gus.
anything.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
I would have to just say, because honest to God, a lot of days, my goofy customers had more business to do than anybody.
So-
So I would say, this is where we're going to open. I wouldn't give them a price because you were not allowed to do that. Remember, Kev?
Wouldn't be tough.
You know, and I go,
can't.
listen to me. You know, and this is like with 5 seconds to go to tea time.
And we're talking 9 o'clock in the morning. That whatever day.
9:05.
Okay.
It was our tea time.
But see, so,
It's just like,
but going back to our father, he never traded for himself.
never.
So he
Never.
No, he did. Every once in a
Oh,
while,
a little bit.
he put a little
One
one lot or two lot on. You know, it was like,
However,
that was beer money for him.
he
you know?
was he was able to better serve these guys because
Exactly, that's why he
had
did
a
not
true,
Because he had no skin in the game.
he had a true feel for
he-
what the
he didn't-
market was doing.
He didn't have an opinion. You know,
Okay.
Well,
he had an opinion, but
He had an
if he
opinion
would have had
first.
a trade on, he would have been talking his position like
position.
we all do.
Yeah.
You know,
You know, so he gave his customers the edge.
I never had an opinion because I had traders that
Robo never had a losing trade though,
I did stop.
until he traded bellies, and then he wound up with the shingles.
Yeah.
I always had an
never
opinion.
Trading
forget,
cattle,
I
he
still
never
have.
had a losing trade.
Everybody knew. You know, you just look at me. I was short. I was short all the time.
Jimmy boy, always short.
Anytime you come up to me, I'd be short. I'd be short to cattle.
What
I'd
was
be
it?
short to
What
feeders.
was
I'd
it?
be short to hogs.
S&Ps, S&Ps,
S&Ps, yes.
Wait, Jim has a story about S&Ps. So we have twin brothers who were born at the very end of the caboose. 7 kids in 8 years. So Pat and Mike
A minute apart.
pulled the train at the end, and Jimmy is, of course, short the S&Ps, as usual. And no nuts, Pat is long. And who bails? Brother Pat out.
So I was short for quite some time. I mean, there were a few other local traders that thought, you know,
Yeah.
they were going a little too fast, you know. And so this was back, I believe it was 87.
87 crash.
And
So not to cut you off, just real quick, because just in case somebody's watching that doesn't know what short and long is, what does it mean when you're shorting, and what does it mean when you're long?
That means you bought something and you're hoping it appreciates in price. When you're short, it's like, let's say, a rug salesman. That was taught to me. It was like, if you come in to buy a rug, I'll give you a price on a rug. But I don't have that rug made yet. So that's what you call short product. So
Right.
I'm short, and I'm hoping that the price goes down, that I could go out and buy it cheaper than what
I just sold it to you for.
you
Hoping that the sky falls. is
So,
what you-
yes. So,
And so Jimmy is short the S&P.
so we call it,
and Jim's playing the trade of his life. If the money holds out, luck is sure to come.
yeah.
And Jim,
It's one of the-
Jim's luck knock on wood, came his way in
So that day,
1987.
that was a brutal
Wow.
day. That was what.
And Jim made so much money. But
I,
wait,
what?
what happened, Jim?
So then
But-
one of our other brothers, who was an options trader and quite a good options trader, he had some options going in the bonds and the S&Ps. And I don't think the S&Ps really got him. I thought it was the bonds that he got really.
No, he was long S&P.
Well, he was long S&Ps too. So, well, both
Pat
of
can
them.
validate if he ever listens to this podcast.
Oh, I guarantee your entire family's going to listen to this podcast.
But anyway, so that day came, and I was short probably about 18 S&Ps at the time. And
18.
Going
Now,
broke.
now those are big S&Ps. Now they trade minis. So
They trade
but-
minis.
I mean,
So-
what
that's
year are we
when-
talking about?
but
Just
87.
87.
How are you
87.
not like?
Wait. So
I cringe at losing $100 in Vegas.
Jim had a lot of money back then. It's all about the money.
but we're
I was
talking
doing quite
price
well.
level.
I had a good friend who gave me some ideas in the cattle. He told me that the market's going a lot higher. So I was able to stay out of my shorts, and just buy and accumulate. And then anytime the market started breaking, I would go into the options because we just started trading options.
Oh, okay.
I would go sell the in-the-money calls to protect myself. And then if it started going back up, I would buy more futures. So I was like in a trap here, it's like I can't get out.
Yeah.
Because the options are not dwindling in price. They're like trading, they were 15% over the actual value, in the monies. So you had to wait until they expire before you're able to collect that money, or before they kind
Plus,
of merge.
that's a whole new
But
thing.
that's
options.
So we, something.
When did that start then? When did options actually
80s.
start? In the 80s. That's when it
80s,
popped
yes.
up. Why did it pop up? What was the reasoning for it
Probably-
to just out of the
It
blue?
was-
or-
it was-
Leo Mohammed.
Leo and Jack, it was more of a strategy for hedgers and producers to utilize the market. They could do different things versus, they could sell puts, out of the money puts,
Tell 'em what
and they
puts
just
are.
collect.
You gotta describe.
Puts and calls. Yeah.
Puts are, they protect you, so let's say if
gives
the
you the right to
market
be
falls
short.
off the
right to be
cliff.
short, which means
Yeah.
the right to be, if the market craters, yes.
You're making money.
Yeah, so if it goes down, you make money. But if you're short puts, not true. You've got
It's the
problems.
opposite.
Yeah.
So some people would do that. Some people would sell calls and buy puts, and they'd be neutralized. They just neutralize their hedge position per se.
Right.
You have to explain that.
So what you do is you sell like maybe in the money calls or out of the money calls, and you collect some money for them. So usually, like $2 away, a call, out of the money call, which is the first option they would trade, it might be worth $1. So per contract, that's $400. And all you got to do is hopefully the price never runs up $2.
Goes that, okay.
So-
Yeah, they don't violate that range.
So back in 87, we're
Back in our
talking
days.
dollar.
So
2025, we're talking $10 that we're seeing move. So
yeah, so
it's a whole different
Yeah, that's 40,
world
40
of
years
trading.
ago.
I think now to trade the S&Ps, the big ones, you need to put up about what 25,000-30,000 per contract more.
No, that's
About the
mini.
going number. That's the big one.
That's
the
mini.
big contract.
The
You
big one they
Unlike
don't
my
have. baby.
trading brothers, I've not made
So-
a trade since 2001, so I don't know anything.
I think back in the 80s, for me to trade a one lot in the S&Ps, the big contract, I think I was putting up 5,000 per contract.
That's a lot
So
of money
I was
back then.
short close to 20. That's
even then,
that's
it's like-
100.
Had a lot of
I
money.
mean, what
But
would
the
the
big
equivalent now?
contract
$5,000?
the
50
big
grand now?
contract
Now, probably
was
50 grand.
times
50
10.
grand?
Yeah.
The big
Yeah,
contract
what's the
was
big?
times.
What is it today to
So,
trade the big contract?
Just to let you know,
S&P.
so the end of,
Jim would know.
to get out of this story,
To get out of this hole.
so
The
Pat,
Boyle
so
Brothers.
I find out Pat and I are trading. We switched trading firms for a little bit. Pat got into a little bit of problem. He came over to another company, which was a great company.
Shatkin. Wasn't he in Shatkin at that?
No,
was
O'Connor.
Mike.
He was
He was
with
at
RJ.
O'Connor.
Oh, that's right. He was O'Connor.
And he switched over to O'Connor. So I got to know the back office guy who ran it, really, the company. And he and I went on a couple of fishing trips. So I get a phone call over the weekend of the crash. And he calls me and he goes, you know, your brother's in deep trouble. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. I go, well, you know, whatever it takes, so I'll take care of it. So that was it.
Brother
And,
Jim, Bill's brother Pat.
So Pat,
Wow.
Pat got back on his feet. You know, it took him a little bit to get going, but he got back on his feet and he recovered and paid he paid me back.
Oh, did he really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. I just know.
Then he passed out
Then,
Rolex.
then he gave us all
Oh,
wrong.
Rolex watches. Honest to God. Gus. It's
So true.
I mean, you know what's funny? Because I mean, we were talking about like I can't even imagine what that
Gold and
dollar amount
silver.
is. I mean,
So-
because to equivalent to even to now, even to back then in '87, what
today
that money
it'd
would have
be
been.
like millions.
But
Yeah,
It wasn't. It was.
but I think
Back there was a couple $100,000.
It was.
What?
It was close.
But-
It was.
but those
even today,
It's
a
about a
couple
half a
hundred
mil.
grand is still a lot of freaking
Oh,
money.
so Jimmy goes. It was about a $500,000.
Back then,
Yeah.
which
1987.
But that took all the money I made in the S&Ps. Everything I made in the
Yeah,
S&Ps,
Jim paid it
I
all
just
away.
transferred over.
so so
shit.
Brothers take care
Yeah.
of brothers.
so
That's family.
So
Yeah.
so anyway,
Yeah.
Pat recovered. He was a great trader, and he paid everybody back, and gave us
But
a
that's the
present.
scary part of trading when you get into this whole business, because I know your son does it too, and that's where I'm just like, I don't know how.
Oh,
I don't have the guts for it.
his son sees his ups and he.
Well,
I don't,
What
have, I don't
we-
have the guts for it because
But from what-
like I said, I go to Vegas for $100 and I'm fucking crying.
Gus, 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I'm down in Florida for my month, and like Jimmy Boyle this is my son, and he's got this spread on, as they would say. Spread was like you could be long.
That's like
one
spread
month,
your
and-
legs, you
Right.
bend over.
That's exactly what it was like. He had some April, June spread on. So, like in the calendar year of training live cattle, all right, so every other month there was an expiration. Jimmy had this frickin' calendar spread on, and one day one side would be limit down, the other side would be limit up. And my son Jimmy, I'm down there at the time. What should I do? I go, you need to get the fuck out. That was my only comment to him. I go, you need to get out. I go, otherwise you will be broke. And you know what? Being an old veteran and everything else, my son listened to me. Partial. Because that's my son Jimmy, who's the only trader in the family. That's Jimmy's mentality. And
I
he
had that-
survived.
I had that Churchill mentation idea. Never surrender. Once you get into a position, that's it.
Jimmy Boyles, I swear to
Oh,
God
gosh.
to this day, if
That's
the money holds out, luck is sure
money
to
holds
come.
out. Yes,
That
Jim's.
that's how
But
we
there's always
trade.
somebody in the market that's going to be like that. That just have a golden
Yeah, but I
horseshoe
had a
up their ass
brother.
no matter
I had a
what. It
brother
always-
like that.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. There's always somebody that you know is like if I would have traded, I'd have lost my ass. But then I'll talk to the guy like, I made millions. Fuck you. Because we're trading at the same time, yet I lost my ass. And you make
Our
millions.
brother and the
There's always
horseshoe.
that one who's got the golden horseshoe up their ass. No matter what they do,
Jim
Oh,
it
yeah.
always touches and money is being made.
Kevin and I had a business. You know, I had a specialty business. Kevin had a deck, and Kevin had a guarantee deal. I just had to deal with crazy drunks and shit like that. And you know what? I love those guys. They made me, a lot of money and shit like that. Whereas Jim just flew by the seat of his pants.
I had some.
Kevin and I had kind of guaranteed income at $1.50 a contract.
I kind of gave it up. But I had some really good, some good friends who were really good traders, And I just kind of coattailed along with him. I listened to him. And
Who was that? Sauter and Curtis?
Mark.
Steve Garrett.
No.
Oh,
Steve Garrett and I were
Out of Denver,
we were buying
right?
we bought cattle. We were feeding cattle out in, I believe, in Mexico or something like that. I think we had 5,000 head.
Gosh,
And-
honest, the Boyles were crazy. Feeding cattle. I fed cattle.
And Steve
We all were just
Steve
like-
called me up and he goes, Jimmy, I got some bad news to tell you. He goes, you know those cattle you and I had out in Mexico? He goes, well, they found all mine, but they can't find none of yours. I'm like, what?
So Gus, this Steve Garrett came to work at the exchange, bought a membership, right, Jim?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that how you got to meet him?
Yeah, and he would come into the feeder pit and the
So
cattle
since you
pit.
brought that up, all right, because I was going to ask that, how did you get into actually being the trade on the floor? What is, and you have to buy a box or you have to buy a membership or something like that.
All right,
What
yeah.
is,
So-
like, cost-wise, or what is that?
We really skipped forward. So
Yeah, we
Yeah,
ju-
right.
we
Who
jumped
cares?
forward,
There's
so-
we're not doing chronological nothing. It's
but-
like, hey,
But you know,
So-
we went from Jimmy going to be
at Barnes.
at the Fry, and then we back
I love it when you guys get the stories go wherever,
and
and
then
the
we
roller
back-
coaster just goes. It's
and
all
then we
good.
backpedaled to being the pool hustler. But how did we get?
That is, you know what? But that is the first time. I don't know if any. Who else knows
But-
that story?
No one.
But growing up
He was
is
one of the greatest pool players out of Cal Park, Illinois.
but growing up as
He
kids,
was phenomenal. I swear
we
to
did
God.
not. At least I did not have visions of trading at
No,
the
we never-
Chicago.
nobody ever.
It wasn't. This is something the big bull markets that developed in the late 70s, where these traders started making some big money. It was while I was in college.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so our father passed away at a very young age. No penicillin. They gave him penicillin.
1977.
Oh wow, that was young.
So-
49.
And then after that, because our father
Passed away.
he passed away,
Worked for the O'Briens, Kevin. Not
But-
to interrupt.
but he was a well-established broker on the floor.
Yeah, he did.
So
He did.
Jim and Robo were like, these guys wanted them to come and work for him. So they were bargaining chips.
Jim got our dad's membership, remember?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And
And then my boss said to me, I went to him and I go, the O'Briens, would like to get me a membership.
because our father's customer, he had a big customer, big cattle
Yeah,
trader,
we had a couple guys.
lucrative, who
Yeah.
you know, they wanted
them a
so they're well.
bongo buck.
If we get the Boyle boys, maybe we could land this cattle guy.
Bring some
Oh, okay.
business
Okay,
from
so-
his company to our deal.
I'm in college. I have no idea what's going on. I'm drinking tequila.
So are the guys running this show.
I didn't know that you can earn more than $100 a month. All right, but I'm in college studying hard. These guys are working down in
Hard.
on the trading floor after our father passed away, and the bull markets, big cattle market, the bull markets came in the late 70s, and lo and behold, they wound up looking for some lakefront park, south siders. The south siders,
Moving on up.
there were 9 of us that grew up, and we had so much fun growing up in Calumet Park from the south side. We lived in this little
3-bedroom house.
3-bedroom bungalow.
Bungalow.
700 square feet, one bedroom,
One bathroom.
one bathroom,
Oh, you guys-
3 bedrooms.
We're so
All 8 of you?
screwed up. 9
I
of
know.
Or
us.
9 of you?
There were-
Parents-
there were-
yeah, parents-
There were 6 boys and 1 girl, so 6 boys are in 1 bedroom. Our sister got her own.
Of course.
So
Princess.
we had no
Irish princess.
idea what wealth was, but we loved growing. We had a great life. Our
Kevin's
father.
right. We didn't know what a dollar
We weren't
was.
with
You
it.
never
We
know.
didn't
You'll
miss
never
a
know. When
thing.
you're growing
So,
up, you don't know what
but
poor is.
our father passed
unless somebody
away.
tells you and makes you feel that way.
Yeah.
These guys wound up getting memberships on the exchange, which gave them the right to trade.
Yeah, 5, 6, 7.
Did you say to drink?
But
So I got married in
what does that
78.
cost
My dad-
to do that?
our
Or,
dad-
or how do you need to get back? Or do you need to be
76.
backed
He
by
passed
somebody
away
or
in
something?
August of
Yes.
76.
76?
76.
So-
that's
Oh,
the
yeah,
year.
that's right, because-
August of 76.
Because I got married in June
So
of
these guys
77.
got memberships and probably.
Well, Jim got my dad's transfer receipt. I went to my boss about my dad's boss going, I'll buy him a seat. And I went to my boss, and my boss said, I'll buy the seat.
Yeah.
So-
I'll co-sign the loan.
And actually,
Because I did.
Bobby got a membership before I did because my dad was going through the probate, and it took about a year to actually finish everything off. So Bob
okay.
was down there.
So what did that cost back then to become a
My-
member or
my
the sponsorship
They
that you
were-
needed
so-
to do that?
My membership cost $145,000.
I was going to say about 150, 145, 150.
And Gus, I owe 200 and some thousand on my home, so I was in debt 300. But I was making some money.
In
I like how he goes,
1977,
when he lowers his head into his shoulder, I was making some money.
So in the meantime, before then, I switched out from, so Barnes Brokerage sent me to the Board of Trade back in the early 70s. So what happened there, I met quite a few people. I mean, there were, I think the Board of Trade had 1,500 members back in the day, whereas the Merc only had about 300, or maybe not even that, 200.
No, there were 300 CMEs.
300.
And then
Now there's 5.
And then they spun
That's it,
off
500?
IMM.
Yeah.
And IMM, they gave out like everybody membership, so they're like
So-
1,500 IMM.
So Leo and all the board members back then decided that anybody who had owned a CME at the time, all they had to do was pay $100 and they would be given an IMM. So
that was our father.
It was like it's a
okay.
no-brainer.
So you were
It was
grandfathered.
So this is
Kind of
so
thing.
this is so this is our dad.
well, in
The
hindsight, it
late
seems
70s.
like it's an easy bet, but
Right.
it wasn't.
It was. It
100
was a
bucks
gamble.
back then
Our
was-
father sold it the next fucking day.
Well, no, he can't.
did.
He made 14 grand, and that was
14
enough to
grand.
put the
Oh,
kids
That was
through.
a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
Big deal. He sold it that next fucking.
But it got me through my freshman year, or not my freshman year, but my
Your
freshman
1 month.
my 1 month at the Bride,
The Bride.
and then Bobby and
I was going to Lewis College.
he was
at
out
the
in
time.
Lewis, partying like there's
Like
no
a rock
tomorrow.
star.
Smoked more weed than came out of the ditch.
Guess where I'd be every weekend.
But by then,
Yeah, Jimmy was there with me.
so by the time you were at Lewis, though, you knew you
1970.
you wanted to be at the
Yeah.
Merc. Yes or no? Yeah. And that
Oh,
was
I do.
before you.
But
But why?
Kev,
Was
the
it because you saw the
reason that-
money, or what was it that made
I
you
saw
think
the
of
money.
Oh,
I
okay.
saw the money. So I'm going to college. All right, I buy myself my own little car, and I'm at Lewis University, which is now Romeoville, Illinois. But I would work every Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, my job was to do the mail. Remember, I'd have to get there at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah.
I would come in stoned or drunk out of my fucking mind
That was we have
every
to.
Saturday morning. And if I was late, I had to get to the United States Post Office by 10 o'clock, no matter what.
Really?
Oh yeah, because
Was that the
if
daily
you
statements?
if you
Oh,
got there before 10 o'clock, those guys on Monday morning got their statements. And I was just like,
So
and some days I'd make it, and other days I'd be like,
so back then, and that was the only
too
way.
fucked up is how I looked at it.
There were no computers where you get to see your positions back then.
Yeah.
You were getting mailing statements
Mail
of
to
your
know what
trades.
where you have our
Where
your
you're
trades.
at,
Yes.
and what got offset. Yeah.
And these guys, some of these guys would call in the morning to find out what their positions were because they wanted to make sure their positions were correct on because what they had in mind might be something different. There could be a key punch error that could throw everything off.
Right.
And these guys would be able to rectify it.
There were a lot of key punches.
There were.
So hold on. Okay,
Well,
so
look,
but
my brother
going back
Jim
to
was
that,
a key
how
puncher.
did that get corrected? How did you guys have to
You'd
go back
have
to
to-
the key punch card thing or whatever and be like, oh no,
Yeah,
that wasn't
So
supposed to
what
be
would
this, it was
happen
supposed to be
is
that?
you would put the orders, they would have
Right.
count numbers on the orders. So you would have to go through every order and on a scratch pad, legal paper, add up how many trades were confirmed and then look at the system to see which did not get in it. So you'd have the account number, an order, and then that would be it. And then there'd be like so what we would get in the back office, and I was also a balancer too.
Yeah, Jim balanced the book. He did. Jim
did it all.
Everything.
He
We
did
would
it
have
all.
to go
And he
through.
left the Merc to go to the Board of Trade
So
for life.
for that too, that's what I
Yeah.
did. I ran that. Me and a guy by the name of John Warner. And by the way, anytime
Struzner.
went to work for them too.
I was up. I'm sorry, Jim.
We're gonna get. No, that's a good story. I can
The
see it
other
already.
day,
Because
hey,
Jim made more money than anybody in our family back then.
Gus,
Jim was the fucking man.
Gus,
Jim, what did you do with those
Chip?
funds?
bought a couple Corvettes.
last night, Jim sent Robo a text. What are we going to talk about? Robo goes, no names. I'm just sitting
Open
here.
like a book.
I'm just sitting here cringing. These names are coming
You know
out.
what it is?
So
It's the tequila.
Oh,
It's Cinco de Mayo.
that's why I'm not drinking because I gotta keep my wits
More
focused.
water if you need water right behind you.
Oh my gosh.
So
The
We have
day-
a timeout.
Yeah, we can take a time out. We're
Can we
gonna
take
take
a
a pee break.
timeout?
no, keep going. I wanna before I forget.
Before Jim cuts you
So
off.
I go over to the Board of Trade. I'm a runner. I become a key punch clerk over. That's where I learned my key punching skills.
He was
Right, because you were still working for Barnes. And
Barnes, and I got to tell you
Jim
guys.
wasn't sleeping. He was working 26
Oh no,
hours a day.
I wasn't leaving the building. I was in the Board of Trade all night. I would sleep on the
I think
chairs
he
in the
was
Board of
sleeping on
Trade.
Patty.
No more tequila.
Shut him up.
Tequila.
No, so I would stay there all night long because I was doing the balancing too. I learned all this, but the situation happened was there was a deal going on with Russia back in the day in the 70s where they were having crop problems and they needed grain. So they were calling some of our big grain production people and making very quiet trades with them and stepping into the market. Well, it finally leaked out that Russia was buying grain from the United States big time.
Oh, wow,
And the
okay.
market just absolutely exploded.
Gus, this was on.
I was there for that.
The timing for that.
I was there, and that's when I learned how to key punch, do out trades, balancing,
Did it
the
all.
whole shot.
You did it. You ran the whole
And
thing.
our little company, we were just a small
P&S.
little company.
How many
Right,
people?
Jim? Wasn't it P&S?
No, it was a Barnes brokerage. But then,
Oh, that-
then
then
as
you
this
went
was,
to P&S.
but then they were looking for something
Oh,
to.
so that was you were still with Barnes.
Yeah, and then I went to, they were looking for something to do the books, and I learned how, and I told my guy, my broker, he was a key puncher too, and he was a damn good key puncher, and he taught me well. I mean, I was
that?
probably John Elton Warner. So anyway,
Gus,
now,
it's a
this is
small
what I'm leaning
world in our
to.
business.
Well, in that business, it's got to be a small one.
Here's what
because
I'm
there were
leaning
a lot of
to.
people doing it. I mean,
So-
yeah.
So John did key punching for Barnes Brokerage, but he did it for a few other firms too. He was a professional key puncher, so and he was fast. So John was hired by Barnes to open up a Board of Trade operation over there, and it was just going to be a small firm.
Yeah.
So he goes over there, and he needs people. And first of all, he grabs me. He goes, "How'd you like to come to the Board of Trade?" He goes, "You'll be making more money. You'll be doing more stuff. You can learn the business."
So he stole you.
So he stole me from Bill Muno, and brought me over to the Board of Trade. And I was like overwhelmed. I mean, this place is huge compared to the Merc.
Yeah.
And so John needed to buy a membership too. So I remember the process, and I think John might have paid, like it cost. So Barnes they had to buy a couple of memberships. There were requirements down there. You had to buy, at least two memberships, and then after so many outside offices you had in the country, you had to either buy another one.
Supplement.
So they bought him a membership, and what they usually do is they take your initials. And that's your badge. So when if I were to make a trade with you or you, me, I would have a badge on, a trading badge, and it'd be different colors. Gold was for, a CME member, a gold member.
Big shot.
The big member. And then I think the IMMs were green at the time.
Yeah.
Board of Trade memberships, they were just white.
I didn't even know what
Board of Trade had whites. They were doing some supplemental stuff too. They had, you could not answer a phone unless you were a member at the Board of Trade. But that all changed back then. Yes, you had to be a member. So that changed. They gave permits for like 6-month permits. So a person, a runner or a phone man,
a clerk,
could answer the phone. And that's what happened to me. They gave me that position. And I was only there for about 2-3 years or something like that, maybe 2 years.
Okay.
So in the meantime, John he gets his membership. So what was Dad's badge? He was BOYLE, BOYLE.
Ask my brother Jim what his badge was. So Gus, they assigned names back in the days.
So back then,
BOYLE.
I mean, I do remember, and I know this sounds stupid, but I do remember watching Trading Places, and they had the color-coded. I hate to refer it back to that, but that's the only thing.
That's all right.
Or videos that I've seen on like whatever programs I've seen about the market and all those. That's all I've seen.
So
I mean, because it's not like they allow video cameras to come in and like, hey, this is what's going on today.
So years ago, there was no limitation. But what happens was these key punch cards, you only had 3 spaces for your badge.
Okay.
But some guys, so what you do is
the 80 punch key cards.
So they changed it. You can only have 3 letters.
Right.
Okay. So John ended up to be JEW on the floor.
I remember that. He did.
God.
Oh my! Yeah, Gus. Back in those days, I was ROBO, but they changed mine.
And I got to, I ended up with BOYL.
Yeah, he had BOYL.
Because that's when they were limiting the number, your name. You couldn't do the whole name.
Yeah.
So,
Billy.
Anyway, John was walking around, and everybody, there was, probably maybe 1,500 people on the trading floor in a day, and they're like, there he goes.
How about? And he was such. He would have initials.
But John was he was really good to me. He took good care. He took good care of me.
I like John.
I went to he and his wife's wedding, and had a great time. Just knowing the guy.
That's awesome.
But he was strictly business.
Yeah.
Strictly business. I went to watch the videos of this guy trying to, how the police, so they come in now, and when you hit the lights, your body cam comes on right away.
My brother Jim, one of the greatest things as Commissioner Gordon of the Bannockburn Police Department, I called him one day. I go, what's going on with this fucking cop that got shot in the woods? And my brother Jim goes, didn't happen. He killed himself. Remember that, Jim?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're talking about the guy in Fox Lake?
Yeah.
I said the same thing.
Jim was there.
I went out there. I was out there that day, yeah.
When I heard that whole thing, I was like, there's no way. Only because of my background being a cop. Having been a cop. I said, there's no way he did it.
I thought
he committed suicide, I said.
He was trying to hide what he and his girlfriend were.
So what we thought happened was he shot at the vest.
Yeah.
But it somehow went through the seam of the vest and went to the heart. So, and he was he had some other problems going on. He was in charge of what was it? Some kind of he was in charge of some money for some funds.
Oh, yeah.
Him and the girlfriend. Right?
His wife. His
Yeah,
wife
his
was
wife.
involved.
That's what
The wife and the son, I think, they were using the money. But, his intentions were to pay it back.
Allegedly.
Yes.
Because I don't think she's been convicted yet, or has she been convicted? Or the case still
you know,
going through. I
I
haven't followed it anymore because it was a big deal for a while, and then it kind of like died off, and I haven't heard anything from it.
All I know is, we actually, we had like 3 officers on the scene. We had one who was a tech out there, and he was looking, at the scene to figure out if there was any other evidence. But it was in a swamp. It was like a swampy area.
Yeah. Just in case you guys don't know, we're talking about a case that was a police officer, unfortunately, in Fox Lake area, supposedly was shot by somebody else, and then we end up finding out he stupidly shot himself because he was trying to cover up that he was stealing money from a fund in Fox Lake area. In
But
Illinois.
nothing related to
Nothing related to
yeah,
it. We spent time, it was just
Other than the fact-
it's off the cuff that
Commissioner Gordon was there.
yes, Jimmy happens to be on the
So I was
commissioner
there,
board for Bannockburn Police Department. And
I
then-
was there. We went. We actually went to the services for the guy,
How about that?
and it wasn't.
well, because at the time nobody knew.
Nobody knew. They were
what
still-
might
they were-
Except for
happen.
my brother knew. He told me.
It was-
But nobody else knew. That was like
It was
an
still under
investigation part.
investigation.
Yeah.
But they were all fooled though. They didn't. You guys didn't know if
we
they
had
were
a pretty good
actually-
idea.
He told me.
But you can't say anything until you know for sure, and you have all the facts. Because if
You
you come
didn't-
out with
wait.
well, the thing is, though, if you come
Why
out with
didn't
some
he tell
half-ass
you?
story and you
didn't tell
think that
me.
it's not true,
See, I'm the little
It
guy.
was,
That's
it was,
why I'm
you know
not
what?
gonna say
Everything was
anything.
kind of trickling down from
Yeah.
the top.
He told me.
Okay,
He
so
goes, "This is bullshit. This guy killed himself."
all right, we're getting back into
All right, so what was the last thing we talked about?
One of the things during our pee break, Jimmy and I got back into his pool days, and I wanted to find out why he didn't run the pool circuit because back in the 70s and 60s or whatever,
He did,
it was
though.
huge.
We did.
But it didn't sound like that, and that's why I was like
So-
shocked because
the problem is my buddy got into some interesting.
Who's this,
rather
Eddie
than
Coyle?
Eddie. Yeah, rather than and our backer too. Our backer was
a
a
backer.
big guy. I used to shoot pool with him, and he was a big boy, and he was a tough guy. He was from Blue Island, and his name was Jim too. And Jimmy would he was a badass. He was one of the guys that you'd never want to screw around with. So Jimmy was a good pool player, but he saw that Eddie and myself were better, and he goes, I'm taking you guys out. We're going out to shoot pool, different places. You
and
know?
make money.
Yeah. And that's what he did. He backed us.
Was he connected
It
by
was
chance?
50-50. No, he was not connected.
So
He was just he was 21. I think we were 15, 16 or something.
Well,
We're talking like, oh, you're 20, 21, you're not. I'm 15, 16, I'm still in high
What-
school.
No, because
I'm still fucking high school.
Gus
What was
Kelsmark
your-
had a pool hall at the end of the frickin' block
what
from
was
our
your
street.
biggest day? Biggest night?
Yeah, do you remember, Jim?
I had a couple big nights back in the day. I was making, I could
Couple hundred.
I could do 100 or maybe 200. Big
How
nights.
much?
would be-
How much would you keep?
Well, I would keep it all because that's usually
What
when I
about
was.
the backer?
Yeah.
Oh, so
I'm with
when
Cal.
he and Eddie, when I would play, these guys, we were kind of, hitting them hard and fast rather than play with them. Start out left-handed maybe and, let them win a couple.
Yeah.
We did not do that. We just went fast
Slam
and furious.
hard and
Yes.
know that, hey,
So no
we would,
sandbag.
we get 50 to 100 here. We get 25 apiece. If we won 50, we would get
split it.
25. We'd split it. And the
So, a box of chips costs 49 cents. Now,
That was right.
now that bag of chips costs $7.
Yeah.
So that's
I
50 to
could-
100.
we'd be
That's a lot of
probably
money.
we'd probably be playing for $1,000 nowadays.
Oh my God, no.
Gus,
5,000.
My brother
Well, I don't
Jim
know.
was a hustler.
I don't know. Years
So
ago.
him and
yeah.
Eddie Coyle.
Eddie was phenomenal. He was a year younger than me. He could do trick shots like you wouldn't believe. He'd take, how you set up the 6 balls right in the center of the table,
Yeah.
and you aim them. he would knock that shot down every time. And then he could do a masse shot from the far end on the rail. The ball was buried on the rail, the cue ball.
Yeah.
And then the 9-ball or the 8-ball would be buried on the other end in the table on that. And he would be able to masse that ball into the corner pocket.
All the way over.
And he had like, it was, his vision was unbelievable. But he just had such a talent. But sadly, he liked to smoke weed with Willie, so.
Not a problem.
He had to, so it was so fun, you know, we would go out shooting and we'd do games and stuff like that. Next thing you know, Eddie'd be in the washroom, it's like, what is, and you come out, and it's like, what's that smell? You know? and
Stoned out of his
he couldn't shoot that. He was losing it. He was, actually, when he first started.
Why didn't you talk to him?
I did. I'm like, then he stopped playing completely.
Remember that.
So,
That was
it was our father, I think, so you learned to bowl, shoot pool. Our father got you the pool table. Where'd that come from?
No, Jimmy got his own pool table.
No, Dad. That
Why
was
did you
Dad
get a
got.
pool table? What, were you causing problems?
We lived in a three. We lived
Jimmy,
in
why
a.
do I feel like you were
That was
playing
because-
a
that-
flashlight?
We lived in
I
a
was under-
3-bedroom, 1-bathroom.
I was under
fucking
double.
house.
I was under double secret surveillance back then.
Probation.
Probation.
So why did we get the pool table?
Because of Jimmy Boyle.
I did
There was only
something.
fucking one reason. Because our mother used it.
You know who came?
Our mother used it because our mom, one day a week, would do the laundry for the 7 asshole kids, and she would use that. Remember, we
Oh,
put the
my
ping
God.
Pile
pong
of
table.
laundry would be the size of these 2 tables.
Oh yeah, I mean it
One
would
week,
just pile
7
up.
kids.
It was a 3.5 by 7 table, and it would be filled with laundry. And I'd go down there. I'm like, you know,
And there'd be clothes on it.
and you know what I would do? I would take the towels, lay them on the floor. It was a cement floor, and then throw the laundry on the towels so I could play pool to clear up the pool
my
table.
God.
And that's where
It's a true story.
I knew there was a
was
story
there.
behind it because we glossed over
But-
it. I'm like, no.
So
We're
why
getting
would
back
Jimmy
to
would
this
sit
pool
there?
party. We're
Why-
getting back to this pool party.
We
you
all got
ask
we
for
got
the
all
table?
got good at pool. I'm telling you.
So
because
here's
of
the
him.
story. There's 2
He
stories.
was the
There's an
best.
accumulation of stories that happened back then. I was probably, I think, 14 and a half, 15. And I was going to, I was going to Catholic
1966.
school, you know.
Yeah.
So a buddy of mine, a couple
Were
buddies,
you Leo
Hey,
high
Gus.
school at that time?
we were.
Gus, he was at Leo. I
this was
saw your
before Leo.
podcast that you were a Gordon
Tech.
Tech guy.
Oh, you get
Jimmy
GT?
was-
Yeah,
I went to
cool.
Gordon Tech,
Yeah,
yeah.
good. Yeah.
I graduated from Gordon Tech.
Jimmy would have to take the CTA an hour.
127th.
How
went
many
to Leo?
transfers? How many transfers
No,
to go
only one.
to go to
Only
the same
one.
high school that our father went to?
I would either.
And then his lucky brother got to go to Marist the First.
So
And all his other
I was
brothers.
the Maris
No,
the Fair.
Vince.
Robo was the first
I was
Maris
the
the
first.
Fair.
You went to Maris too?
My mother let.
So she saved these guys
So you
because
two
going to Leo,
pussies.
my life was in jeopardy every day.
Oh, going to
Wait,
Leo.
Going
Oh,
to
yeah.
Leo, yeah.
Tell him your best story. Jeff Fort took care of you.
Jeff who?
Fort. Yeah, exactly. The leader of the blacks.
Disciple
one of the
gangs.
guys.
The
so
Keystone Nation, the
so
Blackstone
there were
Nation.
there were a few guys that I went to.
Gav, you're right. I have a big.
I went to school.
Fuck.
I went to school with some disciples and some Blackstone
You went to Leo.
Rangers. You know, and they were there, and they were good guys. I mean, they usually had scholarships for basketball or not so much baseball, but football.
Yeah.
So I got to hang out with these guys, and they're really good to me. You know, so I was just a little guy. I was like 4'11", might weigh 103 pounds or something like that.
Yeah.
He's up
So
to
they
5
were-
foot now.
So yeah, I grew up a little bit. So these guys would take care. You know, they would kind of put me under their wings. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were trying to get me to join up with them. I guess. No,
Can you imagine? The
white guy.
So anyway,
Wow.
One day we're in geology class.
No names, no
and-
names.
No, I'm not gonna mention it.
I already ran
And
out the whole deal.
we're in geology class, and I'm sitting in the back, and it wouldn't be too hard to figure out because I think I only had 2 years of geology, if that. And he goes to me,
Geology or geometry?
geology?
You guys had geology classes
Yes,
back
yes. So yeah. So we didn't have. I don't think we had geometry. Plus, I couldn't make the grade. It would have been algebra.
Our mother could have told you that.
We're in the back of the class where I usually kind of hid back there because I didn't want the teacher asking me any questions. So he said, Jimmy, and he's sitting like right next to me, and I look over to him, and I go, "What's up?" He goes, "See this?" And it's a zip gun.
Oh, okay.
He made a little zip gun revolver out of one of those, what would it be, the Lone Ranger gun kind of thing?
Yeah.
So he took a part of a car antenna to sleeve a .22.
No.
And then he took a bunch of rubber bands and wrapped it around the back of the trigger,
Oh, yeah.
or the hammer, and it was cocked. And he goes, "Pew!" and he pops it. I'm like, and then he opens up his left hand and he says, "No bullets."
No bullets. Yeah, my mother tortured my brother.
That's a Jeff Port story. Yeah.
But I had guys try to jump me down, so we had to walk 3 blocks to the Halsted Street train to the Halsted Street bus depot, and I had guys chasing me down there, trying to get me. And once you get to the depot, there's people in there, there's train people, the CTA people were there.
Yeah.
So, but I've had some guys get to me and say, "Give me your money," and I would just I'd say, "I don't have anything," and they just turn around and go the other way. But I've also had another couple close calls over on the south side where I went to go see my mom years ago, and I took the L on the expressway.
95th, yeah.
Out to 95th. Well, I get to the 95th bus depot, and I ride the bus all the way over to Halsted Street, and I was going to take to Halsted. So as I'm waiting there, it's pitch black. It's probably about 9:30 at night. I see a car come around the block, and there's 4 brothers in the car, and they're staring at me, and I'm like, I'm in trouble.
4 brothers. This is not Robo Kevin Penn.
So-
Mike or Billy.
So it's not my brothers.
Not my brother.
So I see the car, and it pulls down the side street about a block away. It was on Halsted. And I'm like, I am so screwed. So I took off across the street. I ran across to the other side of the street and started looking for places to hide. And I found a spot. There was like a store, and it was closed, but you couldn't see because it was so dark. It had like a little walkway. So I stood there. And sure enough, here come these guys come around the block again. I'm like, I am screwed. I'm screwed. They're going to find me. So next thing is they're going back around the block. Guess what I see coming? The CTA bus.
Oh.
And I jump on the bus. I'm like, I'm never doing this thing again. I'm never, ever. So that was it. But I was older then. I was probably
Holy shit.
mid-20s.
The CME.
So the other thing too is at Leo when Martin Luther got shot that day, sadly, there was a school, a high school not too far away. I think it was Calumet High School. It was about 2 blocks away, and that's where all the kids, the local kids in the area, would go to school there. And we would have some
public
small,
school, that's
yeah,
right.
it was public, and then we would have some confrontations every once in a while, but nothing big, nothing. They
Just stupid high school
yeah, stupid
shit.
shit.
Yeah.
So we were detained at school, and what happened was CPD came out along with the CTA buses. They surrounded the whole building through the alley, the sides, where they were bumper to bumper, the buses, and the squads were on the outside of the buses
At Leo High School?
at Leo because they were afraid we were going to get attacked by the kids
by all the
over
kids
at,
from the other
at Calumet, the Calumet High School. So we were all, everybody loaded up on the buses,
Yeah.
and we were all taken home with a police car escort, door to door,
Holy
all the way,
shit.
yeah. So that was
You don't
Martin
hear
Luther-
about that in the news.
Wait,
You don't hear about
we
that
didn't
from
hear about
anybody.
it.
Nobody knows
Nah,
about
You
it.
no,
didn't tell
not
that
that.
to us. My mom probably never heard about it.
No, but
Your
that's,
mom never even knew about that?
no, no.
No, back then.
It was,
Why would
you
you
know,
say
it
that?
was like no big deal.
Was
We
it
said-
CBS, Jim? Chicago?
No, no,
Vocational? Was
CBS was
it- that
further
was the
away.
one further east.
That was
Further
east.
Yeah.
Yeah, CBS is a big. That was a big
That
school.
was
That still
huge.
is big. I think. Is it still open?
I think it is.
I don't even know, to be honest with you, because it's been a while.
CBS.
There's been so many schools, and a lot of these schools have
CBS
changed
is
names.
where,
And I mean, we got fat ass Prisker who's got his own
Buckets play
fucking high
for.
school now.
Really?
That fat fuck.
And
Yeah.
that's where Sears was, Kev.
Like, were you so sad when Mom or you didn't get to go to Leo?
I was so
Oh, you know what? My mom. You know, all I
Your
did.
mom had to have been a saint. All I'm saying is like, oh my god.
Wait. My mom, she was a saint. She's a great lady.
She.
was.
You know what?
She was 4 feet 3 inches.
Nine.
No.
Give her the benefit of the doubt.
She was a school teacher.
She was a school teacher. I cheated off of all of her standardizes tests.
She-
I love it. I did. I memorized all the tests. She'd bring them home, and I just sit there. I was like the smartest kid
She
in
was
class.
one step ahead of these guys.
So I was the black sheep, and what I would do is, rather than come directly home from school, she knew. You know, she knew my schedule. I'd have to be at school at 8:30 in the morning, so I leave around 8 o'clock, get on the bus. The bus would take, you know, like a half an hour to get down there. And what I did, she never knew this, but my first class was gym. I got to know the gym teacher, and he didn't take what it was
Attendance.
Jim didn't
So-
have to go to gym.
So Jim did not have to go to gym.
Da, 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 da.
That's my phone. I thought I put it on silent. Just click the side.
So Jim did not have to go
Sorry
to gym.
about that.
Jim had no gym.
That's
And
good
Jim had-
suspense
that was-
going into this story. That was a good cue.
Yeah.
Jim had a few gym years like that. So we'd go to, me and a bunch of guys that had gym together, we would go to the local breakfast establishment and play records back in the day for 45 minutes, and we finally get up to go to
They had
school.
gym.
So at night, here's the big problem. When I got out of school, I would take the bus back home. But would I go home right away? No, I would not go home right away. I'd go directly to the pool hall and stay there till my mom would show up at like 10:30 at night, staring in the big glass window, watching me shoot pool. And I'm like, I think I got to go home now.
So Gus, we lived at 127th and Racing, halfway down the block.
Well, it was
And
two
then at
blocks.
127th and May was the pool.
The pool hall, yeah.
I mean, so Jim only had to walk
So I think
a
I put
quarter of a mile. At
I put the
block.
fear of God into her that something happened to me on the way home. Like I got jumped on the bus, or somebody took me out.
Yeah.
And I don't,
No,
I
Jim
don't
was
think
hustling.
she did not want to have to deal with that with Bobby or Debbie. Well, Debbie couldn't go.
So,
Kevin,
now- okay, so
Debbie
you
went
got-
to Mother Macaulay, didn't
you
she?
have
Was
these-
that
No,
Mother Mary?
Seat.
Mother's.
Elizabeth
So
Street.
you have these knuckleheads living all in this little house that you guys have.
Yeah.
And you're the one who was banking money. What did you do with all that money that you were banking at the time when
Well,
all these
you know what?
guys
Had
are
a
just like,
girlfriend.
No, I didn't.
What was that girl's name?
Oh, I used to. Her name was Juanita, but she.
so now we remember.
No. I did.
Patty. Her name was Patty.
Oh,
Patty, she didn't come into the Board of Trade
Patty is
days.
Board of Trade days.
Those were Board of
that's
Trade.
No, we're talking 14, 15 when he's making all
No,
this
I
money
didn't.
from pool hall.
So there was a girl that I liked in
you
there. Her
remember
name
that?
was Juanita, but she
remember
was she ended up with another friend of mine. but she didn't really care for me.
But what did you bank with all that money, though? I mean, it sounds like a lot of money now,
It
but
was.
back then it was a ton of money. I mean, it really
He
was. It
re-
was
he
$1,000 a
remodeled
night.
the
that you were
basement because that's
I
where he
would
put his bet.
I would live on that money. I mean, I would go out, get myself some lunch stuff, food like that. But
Yeah.
when we started making the bigger money, when I was 16, and then I started making more,
Yeah.
I would just kind of sit on that and save it, and I would use it for. I'd buy.
He
a
bought a
cue stick.
Mercury.
I bought a car. I bought a cue stick. I bought a couple cue sticks, and
I would have bought some hookers myself.
At 16.
At 16.
No.
Well, I would have only been 15.
So, and I would, there were some times I would lose. There'd be some guys that would come in out of nowhere,
Oh, yeah.
and I'd lose money.
So-
I
you know,
remember
so,
those days.
Did you ever get rolled?
No.
The only reason
I
I
had
ask is
one
I
guy,
had-
I did get beat up one time. Well, twice when I was a little kid. I had somebody punch me in my mouth and knock a couple teeth out. But they were baby teeth. So,
Because my ex-brother-in-law,
It wasn't
back
me.
in the
It
Berwyn, he
wasn't.
lived in Berwyn, and he was a pool
hustler?
hustler back then.
I used to go there.
And he would
used
tell
to go
stories about and he was good. I mean, he could pull shots off that I learned from him when I started playing pool, and then when I was in the military, I learned how to play pool.
Gus, Jimmy was
And
So-
I hustled a little bit, but nothing like that. When I was in the military, I hustled like that much only because I learned from my ex-brother-in-law how to
We used to
do certain
you know,
shots.
we used to go to some rough places. We would go over to Harvey.
my God.
Oh yeah. We would go to Harvey and play there, but we'd have to play their game.
Brian was in Harvey today.
Yeah.
Kev told me that.
And then we go to there was another place. It was over near Kennedy Park, right around there. But it was a little area around Vincennes. It was a hot area,
Okay.
And we go in a pool hall. It was a dive pool hall, and we would go shooting there too. And we either have to play banks or one pocket, which is you have to the bank the pool. So you would get, let's say we'd do a big rack, so 15 ball rack,
all the balls.
and bank all the balls. You got to call your shot too.
Yep.
So
That's
it
not
was
easy
call
to
your
do.
shot.
Brother Jim taught us all
So-
this.
This is like,
Tell it.
And these guys, I mean,
Boyle family, you're learning stuff that you didn't know about Uncle Jimmy.
the brothers,
You're a
brothers.
hustler right here.
So you think it helped your trading?
You know what?
Back to trading.
Back to
Let's
trading.
get
Here
back
we go.
to that.
Here we go. We're back to the.
You know, those bank shots, those 3 rails? You think it helped the trading?
But you know what? It actually shows to your character
It
as to
just-
who you
it's-
are and what you are that you have balls to do a lot of shit that like.
He did.
You know,
Because you were talking about earlier with the trade, and you
I
could have
was
lost your
kinda-
ass. That took
if you
balls
would have
to
seen
fucking
some
do.
of my high school
No.
pictures and some of my young pictures, you'd probably say, yeah, he's a wimpy kind of guy. So, and I still am. So, but
Please,
I
No,
would.
but
Commissioner
honestly,
Gordon,
I
over
think
here.
that's like going and doing the
Yeah.
whole pool hall hustling. I mean, you were always a
Jim
risk
was.
taker to
Jim
take the
always
risk,
was.
and hey, whatever it's going to come from, I'm doing it, and this is what it's going to be.
So being the little brother, I'm 51.
In the room.
So I'm 6 years younger, and I'm 5 years younger than Robo. So I really didn't know much about what they did.
We don't know
But-
what they did. He never told us. Billy never told us.
Right.
Pat
Nobody
Mike
knew.
never told us. They
Never will.
No, but
Deny.
I didn't know that. I knew they were good traders because by the time I was of that age and what was going on, I started to. They helped me get my membership. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have 2 kids and wouldn't be married to Karen.
No, you would have had the 2 kids.
You would
Wouldn't
have had the
any
kids.
money.
You would have had.
You take the money.
You know what?
They
Hold on,
lent
no,
me
but what
the
did you go to-
money.
what did you actually go to school for?
They-
Before you even decided to go into trading, what
To
did you go to
screw
school?
around.
All I could.
No, but what was your major, or what was your?
I was a pole vaulter.
I was a pole
That's
vaulter.
all. You went to
That's
school
why I went
Okay,
to
so you wanted an
college.
athletic scholarship,
then
or
I
just
was-
to do athletics?
Scholarship.
Okay, just
That's a scholarship.
I was an econ major, but I was going to become a lawyer.
Whoa.
So is that what you were studying? Maybe studies. Maybe is that the right word?
Studies,
What were
yeah.
you studying to do besides pole vaulting?
Well, I had a double major,
Female
right?
body.
What was your major or minor?
Math and econ.
Okay.
He was on
Fun.
the right course.
FUN. Fun. I had a lot of fun.
You know what? So when Kevin came down there,
I had a lot of fun.
Kevin came to
But-
RJO to look for a job. And Stu Holliker, my boss,
Well, why? Why did you go down there? Because you saw what they were doing and how much they were making.
and he knew,
I had
he
no
knew Billy.
idea.
Okay.
To me, my friends, they all, to this day, they think, my old grade school friends, they call the Chicago Mercantile Exchange the Merchandise Mart.
They did.
That's where our father worked, the Merchandise Mart.
That was Cal Park in the neighborhood we grew up. The neighbors would say, "Oh yeah, Mr. Boyle works at the merchandise market."
By the time I got out of college, these guys had bought a farm up in Bristol, Wisconsin.
Damn.
And out of nowhere, I had no idea what opulence.
What year was that, Bob?
80.
What year? 80, 82,
September.
84? I still don't
I
freaking
graduated.
remember.
I graduated.
October 80, I think.
80.
Yeah.
I graduated in
October
80.
1980?
Yeah.
Yes,
We
September.
still own it.
September of 80. They were looking for a home on Lake Geneva. Instead, they wound up with a 15-acre farm, 20 acre
20-acre horse farm.
Yeah.
cattle farm.
It was a pig
Cat-
farm. Are you kidding? It was pigs. Yeah, there was pigs on there.
Wait, we had cattle.
No, we had cattle.
Cattle,
Yeah, it was a pig
cattle
farm.
and ducks.
Wait, brother Jim, the one year, we need something to eat the grass at this place. So he goes, let's get 5 cattle. So we get 5 black Angus heifers. All right? No, they aren't eating the grass fast enough. So we get 10.
Within a week,
10.
he
We have
doubled
10
it.
of
So now
these.
you got 10.
And we got 10 of them. And I'm just like,
and then the
Fuck,
following week,
fuck.
there's no grass for them to eat.
right, yeah, they've eaten it all.
And
But
they're
there was a little pond with about 3 gallons of water that he bought 24 ducks.
25 ducks. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
So,
Remember that.
Oh,
Peking
my
ducks, white ducks.
White
gonna-
ducks.
I was going to raise them. Well, I
There
did
are
raise them
white
for a little
duck
bit.
feathers everywhere.
And,
I'm telling you, those freaking foxes.
Okay, so where did these
It
smart
was the
ideas
piece-
to invest like you guys did versus what
It
you
was
guys have
a-
done
idiots.
on the trading floor?
It was-
and made a ton of money, and you guys are fucking morons with
People-
buying
Morons.
fucking 10
Total
fucking
morons.
cows and
So-
white ducks.
so Robo got the seat in 78, Jimmy got the seat in 79, and I think there was a giant bull
No,
market.
I got mine
in the-
77. Jimmy got his 78.
78, yeah.
And there was a giant bull market in 78, probably in the cattle.
Yeah.
And these guys made a lot of money. But now, hearing the story 30 years later, I hear that
40
Jimmy had a friend down there who was a big spreader in the back end of cattle.
Oh,
Steve
jeez.
Garrett, right?
No, Gene.
Gene Chesrow.
Gene
Oh,
Chesrow.
Chesrow.
Oh, Gene Chesrow and Barney's dad. I remember I used to be back there.
Like my father, who
Oh.
helped these cattle ranchers hedge cattle, Jimmy was hedging the Boyle family net worth.
Right, because he had our father's seat. I had my own seat.
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you remember
And
that?
Jim was taking
Robo
care of
was
my
kind of
mom.
like me. He had some business that he would execute orders, so it was set income. He didn't have to necessarily rely on trading.
Okay.
But Robo never had a losing trade in his life. He was always nothing but winners.
A sandbagger? Is that what you would call a sandbagger,
Where
like
now,
golf?
now Jim
I had a pork belly trade.
had a
lost
little
30 grand.
bit of order execution, but his was mostly trading. But he was investing for the Boyle family.
Yeah, he was.
I was, I more or
Because he had our
less,
dad's seat, and he
So-
was paying my mom.
And I'm going to interrupt Jim. I'm not even going to let him speak.
where's the duct tape? I was told to bring duct tape.
So I started school. I started college in fall of '76. I graduated in '80. These guys had a place up in Bristol,
Bristol.
Wisconsin in
Okay.
September of '80, and on their I want to do what they're doing. And
And then
it
that's
just
for how you
goes from
jumped
there.
in.
These guys had 2 very successful years.
So I would be remiss by not asking this question. You all have been married and are married still. Unfortunately, Robo lost his
He
wife.
passed.
Where did you guys all meet your wives?
My wife, oh my God. She used to sit in my lap. Honest to God, on the trading floor back in 1974, 75. So I married her 5, 6, 7, 8 in 1977. So I dealt with her sitting in my lap for 2 or 3 years. And, you know, I met her on the trading floor. And now we can go to, I think Jim was next, right? Wasn't I the
82.
first boil?
You got, yeah.
Yeah.
But
But you
his
were at the
came
Board of Trade
from
then
Pardon?
in 82, no? When
No,
when
because
did you
our
go?
father died in 76.
So so we bought the farm in 80.
And we had
by that time,
lots of
Bobby
fun
already
at that
had,
farm.
Mary Kate was born, and her birthday's coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, how about it?
Unbelievable.
It was a New Year's Eve party.
Yeah, and
Robo's sister-in-law invited Jimmy's future wife.
and
to
that
the
was
party.
back in 80. That would have been 81, I
Oh,
believe.
Patty Furman.
That was 81, December of
Did I
81.
drop another name?
You met her, but you met her at.
I met her at the
New
farm.
Year's Eve party.
Yes.
Oh, at the farm. This is where you met your wife.
Bobby's sister-in-law brought her to a party. I think it was it was at a New Year's Eve party.
Yeah.
Is that where I electrocuted myself?
And so Robo's wife
I
came.
thought that happened several times. We had this 200-gallon fish tank,
No.
and the light bulb would fall in there, so he reached down to go get it.
That was the Halloween party.
Was that the Halloween? Okay.
So, but Robo's wife.
I don't know why he was doing that.
Sober? You were doing that completely sober?
Too much of that marching dust, probably.
Kate-
And the Mary Jane.
So Katie, Robo's wife, Katie worked on it. She worked on the floor. Jimmy's wife, who came to the New Year's Eve party, worked
She
on
went
the
on the trading floor.
Okay. And your wife?
Wait,
for
no,
Ray.
no, you can't jump so far ahead because Billy, brother Bill, his
Was-
wife, Leslie, worked on the trading floor.
Okay.
All right, then we get into Uncle. Well, did Uncle Pat, our brother Pat, did he beat you?
No,
No, he didn't.
but
So-
he eventually hooked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kevin came next. Kevin met his wife on the trading floor, and we knew her because Jim and I used
She
to
used to-
trade. And
yeah,
she was a clerk.
She
for
was
the exchange.
She worked for the
quote
exchange.
taker.
Yeah, quote taker.
Yeah,
Tim's
so she was working in the feeder pit for a long time, and I would talk to her every day, and I knew her very well. So
So
still
she worked for the exchange,
Yeah, for the exchange.
and the members usually used to get upset with the quote takers because you only have the quotes up there. So there wasn't always a good relationship between the exchange workers and the membership. So
But you guys have all lasted over 30 years doing this business with your wives, for the most part.
Yeah, it goes longer than 30.
I was giving a better with that.
I think this is going to be the year 43 for me.
Is it really?
Yeah, 82.
Oh, yeah.
So
All right, and then we have other brothers. Which
we've got the 2 twins,
Yeah.
and actually
and he
Mike
married a
Mike married
met
somebody out of
there,
out
but
of
he
the
had
circle of
he had a
love.
girlfriend that was down there.
Yeah, he had a legitimate girlfriend.
He had a girlfriend from the Merc at one time, and they kind of went separate ways.
Really?
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't remember that. Kevin
Yeah.
doesn't remember
Kevin,
that.
you remember that? No.
Yeah. But then Pat married
Sure.
who he's divorced from.
but she worked on the
and she
exchange.
worked down on the exchange, and I think she's still in the commodity business. And that was Karen. They're divorced, and I mean, what a lovely look. You've met her, Kevin.
Yeah, at the house. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
great. She was there just, I think, over Easter. if I
Christmas
remember.
or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, something.
Christmas.
Yeah.
2 great kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy.
Yeah, so all of us. So before I met my wife, I met my brother-in-law to be, probably back in 1970. He was a Harvard grad, and he worked for his Uncle Dick, and all he did was stand around all day long, and
Dick Shanley was a good friend of our fathers. They were bar buddies together. They would work in the pit right next to each other, and they knew each other for years. And Dick said, when I turn 55, I'm going.
And he did.
And he did.
But my brother-in-law used to work for his Uncle Dick, and Buddy's job was like running the orders back, and then I met him in 1970, and then met his sister in 74 when she graduated from Sacred Heart.
Because I remember when we were talking about this at Easter, and that's why I want to bring it up, is like, what were the Chicago bars? Because I don't even know if they're in existence anymore. That you said that either your grandfather
He used to
or your
live
dad,
right off of Rush Street.
No, but I think we were talking about your dad or your grandfather.
Our grandfather.
That
Remember
would sit at the bar and drink
what
at
was the name
7 in
of
the
that
morning before we went
bar
to
at
work.
the bottom of the Union Station? Remember Grandpa Kelly was in the movie The Sting. Do you remember that?
Bluebirds?
It was the
Or
one-
the Iron
it was
Horse?
The one that, no, it was the one all
All
the
the
way
way
in
at
the
the end.
corners.
I don't remember that.
We don't remember the name of it.
No,
But our,
I-
And you know,
our dad
and I
had
couldn't
an
remember what
11
it was, because otherwise I would have looked up and said the name, but I
They
couldn't
went in
remember
like
the name
a
that you were
10
talking about at the bar
o'clock,
that
11
day.
o'clock glee club with all these guys, and they'd all meet there. I mean, it was hysterical. It really was. But Kevin and I and Jimmy all grew up with the Iron Horse.
we have down under the train
It was
station.
under
when
the train,
It's still
under
there?
Union Station.
I
Union
have
Station.
no
There was a
idea.
bar called the Iron Horse. We used to hang out there.
Is it still there?
It's changed a lot. It's
But the bar is still there, though, I think. Because there's still a bar in
well,
the metro
there's a bar-
station, I think, now, but I don't know what it's
They've
called.
remodeled so many times down
I
there.
was
but-
down there a couple months ago. I had to go see my accountant, and there is a bar, but that whole structure there used
It's
to be
all changed.
There used to be an Iron Horse and a what was it? The Cove,
Bluebirds.
a Bluebeard's Cove.
Okay.
And
wonder what-
that's
That
all
was the
gone.
one out to the other
To the-
side.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I remember Katie having a stripper for me down in the Iron Horse. Honest to God, it was one of my 8,000 birthdays. And I'm just like, what's
Katie.
this? And she shows up, and I'm just like, and I have all my perverted friends. Well, she's invited all my perverted friends.
so
I can honestly say I was not
You
there.
were not
for that.
there.
Yeah.
you remember
I don't know where I was.
the stripper actually went to college with me.
Remember?
He
No
went
way.
with Billy.
This was the girl. The guy stripper
Oh.
showed up at my house.
That's what
Remember that?
okay, so I get into this.
So, Kevin, I have a birthday party for Katie at my house. We're living in golf
okay,
at the
I got
time.
that all mixed.
And this guy went to school with Kevin. I'm just like, oh, my
Okay.
God, what a small.
That is funny.
Bill Torpy.
That was
So at Easter,
no names.
So,
at Easter,
So-
both of you guys said your
What's-
mom would never go to the Merc.
well,
She hated us all working there.
And why?
because she felt that it corrupted our father.
It was.
It was a lot of
You know, I got to
pressure
tell you. I mean, our dad was down there
sin of iniquities, whatever.
for quite some
The
time.
devil's playpen.
And he really, he was he's a good dad and a good husband too. He just, he had the Irish thing going on though, so that's what kind of brought him to a early end, per se.
Yeah, she was afraid that we
Yeah,
did.
so she knew what was,
Well,
So our mom didn't want. All right, so there's 7 of us, 6 boys and a girl, and our mom did not want any one of us to go to that den of iniquities. I mean, and guess what? She lost. Every one of us.
But the reason
went
was
to
because
work
she
there.
saw what your dad was going through and your grandfather
Oh,
had gone
no,
through, or is it just that
our
her?
grandfather wasn't bad. He was the janitor.
Yeah, but he was still in the mix. You
No,
can't say
no,
like he
no.
didn't see what was going on
Well,
with everybody
what
else
do
you-
that was working there. I mean,
Yeah.
janitors know back secrets and hear backdoor stories.
I gotta tell you one thing about the place. When business is going on, that's it. There's no other focus. There's nothing about, woman or whatever, whatever you do outside of that building. It's strictly business. And that's it. There's no, that now they might have like yearly get-togethers and things to that effect.
Some of our yearly get together.
When the weekends roll along,
Yeah.
when the party's over, let's say when, work's open, when they ring the bell,
Yeah.
and when trading's over, that's a different story. Some guys would go right to the bar right after and stay down there. They'll stick around for the out trades, see how the out trades, if they had any trades that were out, something bad, something big, they would stick around from there. And then they'd be on a 3:30 train home if they lived out in the burbs.
Okay.
So, but
But Jimmy and I, back in our days when the computers were first kicking in, be there till midnight. I'd be there at 6 in the morning, and we worked till midnight because of all those boxes of cards. And honest Gus, they had to match them like this, and
that's why when I was at the Board of Trade and I started to work
insane.
for the other company, I stayed there all night long.
oh yeah.
And because if I wasn't there, if I were to oversleep,
Yeah.
they can't open the door without me.
Right.
So I had to be there.
Traders on the floor.
We had a bunch of traders by then, so I had to do the out trades, take care of all that stuff, and count cards too. God, and that was great. That was the wheat and corn days when it went absolutely berserk because of the Russians.
Because the Russians, right?
So yeah.
So how far off? And I know this is gonna probably be a stupid question, but for people who don't understand, like other than a movie that they've seen, and again, we're gonna go back to Trading Places. Like at the end of the movie, where they're like, sell, buy, and it's like
Turn
that
the
easy.
machine
Turn
on.
the machine on, all that bullshit. And I know it's fucking TV and bullshit movie, but in reality, how far is that off from what literally the trading was?
There
On
is
something
There were
like that.
Days just like that.
There were crazy days, but there was always order to that craziness. But when the bigger pits came into line,
Yeah.
they were trading at different prices in the pits. Where they're actually the S&Ps was one of them. They were like handles below the market on one side of the pit because there were order fillers over there, and they were working with the locals on one side. The pit, the people in the pit recording the trades and stuff couldn't keep up with it because there was just so much commotion.
But we never had to deal with it.
It was order.
Okay.
Ours was usually number one.
It was
We had a
order.
small-
It was orderly chaos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you would
You know,
describe it.
A good one.
If you didn't know what was going on, it was chaos. But to us, it was very orderly.
Because you're
Nothing.
used to it. It was just
It
something
was,
like a normal
it was
day.
very.
for the
It
most
was
part.
very orderly.
Yeah,
And,
we got used to it after
and-
a while. It was just like
Yeah.
a regular day.
and there were 50 to 100 of us, and we're all trying to make our own little living.
Yeah.
It was like playing cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who's
And-
gonna bluff on this? Who's gonna?
And
Kevin knows.
And-
Kevin had to do it. I
And-
didn't have
Yeah,
to do that.
Yeah, we
and
could.
it was an
I could
honest-
walk away from that. Except
It was an honest
couldn't.
system, and there were a lot of good people down there because they could
were.
have just said that was a bad trade, walk away,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So we were fighting with these guys for 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 40 minutes,
45 minutes, right?
40 from 9:05 to 12:45.
Yeah, but then it went to 1 o'clock.
But so we were fighting. We were trying to make money for ourselves.
Right.
And on a crazy wild day, we'd be stressed out, and you'd want to go down and have a beer, and it wasn't even organized. And you go downstairs, and all of a sudden, these guys who we were trading with or trading against, trying to get an edge on them. You'd drink for 2, 3, 4 hours, and it wouldn't happen often. It would happen, once
a
every.
every Friday.
I was going to say probably on a
No,
Friday.
now it would happen
Yeah.
more often because there's so much volatility. But back then,
Right.
it wasn't that chaotic.
It wasn't. We had really
To
slow.
the outside person, it was chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
There was-
to us,
it was organized chaos.
It was
organized chaos.
And you know what the
orderly.
deal is,
But
and you know what's going
these
on.
guys
Yeah.
who you were digging and scratching to make money and beat them, all of a sudden you'd be down in the bar, there'd be 20 of you and you'd be drinking. And it wouldn't happen often, but
Right.
there'd be some wild days.
Gus, you could ask Kevin.
It was a fun place.
So, like, after the bell rang, Kevin and I go play golf with these guys who you're fighting with all day
Because you're
long.
fighting for money. You're fighting for your
They would
company
take
that
us-
you're working for
they
to
would
try to
take
get the
us
best
to their
deal
country
and whatever.
clubs,
And yeah,
but-
I used to
And they
observe.
paid for everything. I mean, it was unfreaking believable. They were our friends,
Yeah.
even though they were our enemies.
in the pit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when
Those 4 hours a day, it was just like,
when I first started, I was supposed to take over my father's stuff. He was in the front option next to Dick Chanley and a couple other guys, and Jerry, what was his name?
Pam.
Jerry Pam was. Oh yeah.
Oh, there
Hi,
you
Jerry.
Oh, we're
Jerry.
name dropping again.
So Jerry, and Jerry
It's
was.
any Pam. We don't know that which one specific.
Jerry was around there
it's
for
the
quite
thing you
some time.
spray in a yellow and red can.
So, but what they did was they needed somebody to do the front option. So RJO cut a deal with a guy who worked with Heinhold, and he offered to take our deck, which Kevin eventually ended up with, but it was supposed to fall into my hands. But I'm like, I could not handle all that, so I kind of got passed up. And the guy who did it, he'd lasted about a year or so,
Okay.
and he burnt out. So,
We're not. He's like, don't make me say it.
GB. No, DB. So, so then,
You are such a name dropper for so many. So
say
many
a
secrets
word.
are supposed to be like held back.
so then it came along about a year or two, whatever. He dropped out. He disappeared. They brought me in. I started doing a little bit of paper, just exclusively for them. And then they decided that I think it was Bobby was going to do the front option.
Bobby O'Brien.
Yeah, Bobby and Jenny and Senior. They were all going to do the whole thing. And there wasn't that much paper because the way the trades were coming in, it was not sporadic. They would just every once in a while put on some big positions.
Right.
But you had your regular traders, your regular day traders per se, and they would put trades, and that wasn't too hard. So they switched me over to the second option, and I was there with three guys that were quite memorable. And they kind of put me under their wings, and they helped me, and I helped them fill paper. Then eventually, I started doing a little bit of trading. I worked myself to the back of the pit, and I liked it there because I could see the front. And it's like a wave when the market moves.
Yeah.
So the front reacts, then all of a sudden the second option, the third option, fourth, fifth, sixth would follow suit. So I felt like I had an edge back there a little bit because I saw what was going on in the front. So I could react faster back there to do something. So I would observe, and there were some days the front of the pit, guys were falling off the pit. It was like 4 steps up. And guys were falling out of the pit, and it was just gyrating back and forth like a wave,
It was wild.
And there were guys on the floor.
People.
They
Our pit never was big.
They were either laying on the trading floor or they were inside the pit area, the lowest part of the
Where they
octagon.
stepped
Yes.
down.
Yeah.
So it was quite a unique thing back in the day. And sadly, it's no longer there. But
Everything's electronic now.
It was
Everything's
yeah. This was the way it evolved.
And these guys all stayed pretty much to the end, right,
Yeah,
Cal?
right
Who
to
was
the
the last
end.
one? Did you
Kevin.
stay longer than Jimmy?
Oh
What
yeah.
year?
Oh yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, Kev, what year?
I left in '08. I think it shut down in 14.
So
Well,
so
the
for-
cattle
okay.
pit. The cattle pit. It stayed open longer.
So
than
you
that.
still trade? You dabble.
Yeah, I do.
I quit before all of them. I saw everything
Nice.
going electronic.
Robo got scared 9/11. In
9/11.
my opinion.
I lost
In
so
my
much
opinion, 9/11.
So I remember at
phased them out.
Easter, you guys were talking about there's something with the lawsuit. If you guys don't want to talk about it, then we don't need to.
Yeah,
but
but
if you
you
do,
know
then
what,
what?
We really don't know a lot about it. We really, truthfully.
So
Well, I mean,
You know,
what was the gist of it? If you can even
I
semi-explain.
could tell you this is that they the defendants requested they wanted to go a little continuance, a little
Well,
longer.
who are the plaintiffs to begin with? What's that?
It's us
It's
against
us, a
them.
group of
It's
members.
all of us.
Members.
Members,
of
our
the, okay.
trading members, locals per se.
Okay.
It was so they wanted to change the deadline date. The judge, I think it was set for July 17th, and they requested an extension on that.
Well, they wanted to
The judge
throw
denied
the
it,
whole case up.
and
But what's the gist of the lawsuit to
Wait.
begin with? I guess.
Billions of dollars.
But for what reason? I get that, but what's the reason for even the lawsuit having been brought?
there were things that were said that
It's
we were
theoretically
supposed to
said
get.
that they lied to us.
So is this the CME group?
We have our own group.
We don't. We
Yeah,
really
well,
don't.
because the
We're-
CME
we're
group
not
owns-
we're not a part of what's going on, and I don't think it's worth talking about.
So the members,
really don't.
the members don't want to really the FCMs, let's say, the Futures Trading Commission merchants, they do not want to. They're in the background. They're not saying anything one way or another. But it's more or less the independent traders that were perceived
Like
to
Jimmy, myself.
to be
Kevin was more
remunerated.
of an order feller, but a bunch of us were just local
We were
traders.
supposed to get a
But-
compensation
Of some
that
sort.
never
Back,
that
never
has
happened.
never
Okay.
happened. So
Well, and it devalued the prices of our
yes,
memberships.
there's a bunch of
Okay.
portions to this that has affected us as
It's only one.
in our supposedly compensation we should be getting.
But this thing's
Okay.
been going on for 14 years. And
Yeah.
supposedly July 7th, I think they're going to court.
7th.
And then, you know what? The Boyles don't care. However it comes out, you know what? It's either a win or it's
Whatever it is.
whatever. I mean, is it going to affect how most of the people that still own their memberships, is it going to change their lives? No. So
Yeah.
I really
We don't. You know,
I don't care.
we
I
don't-
just
we
be
have
glad
no
it's
idea.
over with. I don't have to sit there and read about these lawsuits every 2 or 3 months. You know, it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
And if I get money, and if we get money, fine.
Great. And if not,
we
then it
don't,
is whatever.
You know,
it doesn't. It's not
there's
going to
so
change
much
my
hearsay
lifestyle.
about this right now.
Thank
Yeah.
you for Social Security.
Thank you.
That's all I can say. You know what? Go Social Security.
You know, bottom line, your wife, my wife, kids,
Everybody's
CME,
healthy
our
and happy.
father, CME's been good
Yep.
to us.
And I'll tell you what, I
Good
and this-
stories, lots of fun.
Yeah.
Lots of fun. We
I,
had so
I
much
appreciate
fun.
you guys being here. I love this. This was like awesome because it's like I had my own time with you guys. Because normally it's like in the family setting, and then you don't ever get a chance to finish all of the story.
Trading places. It was orderly chaos. We had a lot of good times. It wasn't
Yeah.
always great.
I used
You know,
to-
there were some down moments.
Oh,
But
I used to watch them
It's-
set that
you know,
up in the belly pit. They were in the belly pit actually setting that up in the afternoon
When you were there.
when we were down
I
there.
got to meet Ronald Reagan in my days down there. He came down. Remember when he walked the floor? George Bush came down there. I mean,
That's awesome.
This place, they used to take care of all the people. I mean, they really
Clayton.
would, because they were trying to push the exchange, you know, and so
Clayton
they have
Yeager?
these
Yeah.
days.
Clayton Yeager, I got to take a photo with him.
the super PACs.
Yes.
We had some
Yeah.
good times
Yeah,
down
we
there.
had some big packs.
I think he was with Ronald Reagan. He was the Secretary of Agriculture.
I think he was back in the day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? I appreciate you guys coming all the way down to the city because I know you guys live in the suburbs and you hate fucking driving down to the city, but I do appreciate you
Well, the
guys
good
came
news-
down here.
The good news is Popeyes is right over there.
Popeyes, if you want to plug and sponsor.
But besides that, if you guys
There we
would
go.
bleep out any of the names that we threw out there, do that.
Well, I do. Again, I appreciate you guys coming on. This has been awesome. I had a blast.
That's
And
a
I
good
hope
time.
everybody
Good time.
that
Good time,
listens
guys.
only
is
drank
going to
one
actually
bottle of
enjoy.
reposado.
This is yeah, only one bottle. I know.
One bottle.
We actually only went through one bottle. But again, guys, thank you for watching. You know what?
Yeah,
And
thanks for
we
taking
may end up
us.
having another
Thanks,
session
guys.
with you because I know that there are more stories than what you just heard. Trust me, it gets even deeper than what we just did.
We have a family
But
deal.
yeah, there's family that's watching. But again, as always, all facts, no fluff. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
Lord's been good to us.
I would drink to you, but I drank all my tequila.